Hey, what's up, everybody? BDF 44 coming at you in another video. All right, so I made like 3 therapy sessions in a row or something like that. This is going to be another one because not too long after I made the therapy session, I did at 2 a.m. last night. I had a pretty cool thing happen. I think it was after I had finished listening to it. I was sitting here kind of tossing and turning. It was probably like 4 in the morning. Could not sleep, and I was thinking a lot about just the realities of my living situation and what is ahead of me. And I was just talking to God, like, what are we going to do? How am I going to do this? What needs to be happening? And the Lord said, a lot of things to me in that moment as I was praying. The energy came to me, essentially said, this is not going to go the way the enemy believes it's going to go, or something like that. In other words, you're going to be all right. I'm going to find a way. We're going to figure it out, that kind of thing. And I'm like, with all due respect, Lord, like, I've been hearing confirmation energy, feeling confirmation energy like that could coerce me into this space in the first place. So I don't necessarily trust what I'm feeling here. Just tell the truth. And all of a sudden, a lady popped in my head that I hadn't seen since I was a small child, yo. And when I say a lady popped in my head, this was the manager of the apartment that I lived in when I first came to life. The manager in my very first place popped in my head as I was sitting there telling the Lord that I don't trust the energy that I've received in regards to the confirmation that things are going to be fine about my living situation. It was the old landlord from the Hollywood apartment that I used to live in. She was a lady, really nice lady. Her name was Annelle Hemsley. Very, very nice to me and my mother. And she would come over often. I think I was too young to really know, but I think she would come over to pick up the rent check. In person sometimes, and she'd come over and see how the apartment was looking, hang out with us a little bit. She was a really nice lady, warm energy. We were happy to see her when she came, that kind of thing. And at the end of the whole situation, we were leaving that apartment. I don't remember the circumstances, but essentially Annelle came to us with a proposition to my mother. And she was realizing, I think my mother probably had a couple conversations about how big I was getting, and it was a single apartment. As I had once mentioned to you guys, I had lived in a single apartment my entire life with my mother up until I was like 15 years old, 16 years old, something like that. This is how I finally got out of that. This is how I finally got my own room. Annelle Hemsley came to my mother and told her, like, why don't you go be manager at a place that I have over in Miracle Mile over on Wilshire? That way your son can have his own room. The rent is similar to this one here. And with your manager of that apartment, it's much more difficult to raise the rent over time. You're not going to probably see much fluctuation in your rent. Just go down there and be manager for me for a while, because that's what I need. The manager in that building moved out, and I think you would be great for that. And so we did that. That was the first time I ever moved. Never moved. We didn't have any plans of moving, but I desperately needed my own room, obviously. And Annelle Hemsley came through and just offered us that for cheap rent, man. Real cheap rent. Let us stay there for as long as we did, man. So that's who popped up in my head. And the thing about it is, I hadn't thought of or seen Miss Hemsley since then. And when I say since then, y'all, that was in the 90s. That was in the 90s. It was probably 1999 or something like that when I last saw Annelle Hemsley. You know what I'm saying? And so I hadn't thought of her, you know what I mean, at all, because how does that really go in your life when you're just going about your life? People don't pop in your head like that. People you ain't seen since you was a little kid, that kind of thing. And the relevance of the circumstance, given the fact of what I was thinking about, made it feel spiritual to me. It's like, yo, she popped in my head when I was thinking about my living situation and what's going to happen next. I've only moved 3 times. She was the one who initiated the first, and she was who the Lord had popped up in my head when I was worried about this. And so essentially the Lord was trying to tell me, I guess, that didn't I give you that circumstance? You saw how that fell out of nowhere. And I started thinking about other circumstances. When I needed to take over that apartment we ended up going to, several years later, my mom decided that she was going to move over to Inglewood, the condo that I moved out of since before coming here. It's all coming together. She was moving there after my aunt had passed away from cancer. My grandparents owned that condo and they wanted somebody to occupy it. So my mom and I, were set to take it over once my aunt had passed away. But I told my mother at that point, I'm like 25 years old. This is my opportunity. this is my opportunity to finally not live with my mama, be a 25-year-old man with my mama. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to take over the apartment and I'm going to let you move over there. I don't want to move over there. My thinking was my aunt died there. Both of her dogs died there. Whatever's in that house, probably killing everybody. And I was right. I was absolutely right. But the thing about it was that, unfortunately, you know, was my opportunity, or fortunately, was my opportunity to finally get my own place. So, you know, my mom moved into that place, and I ended up taking over the rent that had been set since my mother had been manager. It didn't raise, so I was able to take that over. It was affordable in a very nice neighborhood. And I ended up getting a call from my friend Cage, my good homeboy, with the opportunity of an ESPN zone, fortuitously. Now, I didn't tell him I needed a job. I didn't have one, but I told my mother I wanted to take that over, and I was going to figure it out. That was my thinking. I'm like, I don't have a job right now, but this opportunity I can't mess up. I'm going to find a job, and I'm going to keep the rent. And I didn't have no idea how it was going to happen. That was the thing. I, just like now, had no clue how I was going to do it. Didn't have no car, didn't have no job, but I just knew that my mom, I wasn't moving over there. I wasn't going. That was it. So I ended up having my friend call me up with a job opportunity like a day after I committed to that. He didn't know my situation or nothing. He was just calling because his job had a job opportunity. Like those type of fortuitous things, the Lord be reminding me, doing it all the time in my life. You know, when I got this place, I told y'all the story about that. And I thought I was going to be, you know, sent basically to homelessness. I was going through, you know, the passing of my mother, and my grandmother was making the decision to sell the condo, and that thus left me out. And so I needed to find a place to stay. Couldn't find nothing. The last second they gave me this one when I was about to be homeless that day. Like that day, that's how I got into this place. A miracle. So it's like if God is telling me yet another miracle is on the way, and I'm telling him I don't trust it, and he shows me the woman that gave me my first move miracle, I think there's something to that. I think there's something to that. So that's what I'm running with. I want to document that because I be having stuff like that happen in my life, and I feel like with the purpose that I feel I hold, with the words that I can say in this camera, with the way I feel like I can help sway people away from evil and toward God, with the way that I speak, I feel like God wants me to be able to do what I do, but things have to fall into place somehow, and sometimes I don't be having it together. So he has to do miracles in order to just keep me stable, keep me in a foundational space, because of the horrible decisions and just the misguided nature of everything around me over the time. You know, I was thinking about just a segue out of that. And I want to just sign off by saying rest in peace to Miss Annelle Hemsley, and thank her so much and her family for what they did for mine. But, you know, just to move toward another convo, I mean, I think, you know, it's a lot to be said for the Lord in my life, giving me these miracles, and then also giving me a way to feel good about progressing forward in his way, the way that I feel comes right to me, naturally to me. I think could help build, as I've said in many therapy sessions, could help give people an understanding of how to think around certain things that are in place that are not meant for them to be thinking around. You know, that kind of thing. And so it's like, because I think that holds great purpose, because those seeds can bloom all over the world once the right people hear that stuff. Those philosophies could help build nations, I believe. If all of that is possible, then of course the Lord would like me to be able to do what I do. And the disadvantages that I have in life cannot necessarily derail his plan in mine. So that's when you start seeing miracles take place to keep me going. I really believe that. I believe that when people hold certain purpose, they're not going to fall unless it's part of the purpose that they do. And so if you look at what is going on in my life with all these different miracles and timing coincidences that just happen to fall in place to keep me sheltered, even though I don't do a whole lot to help myself consistently, I just assume it's in the purpose that allows me the opportunity to continue to do it. If I wasn't committed to the purpose, I probably would fall. If I was committed to evil while being disadvantaged with mentally, I'd probably just not be alive today. I think a lot of the decisions that I made, excuse me, would have probably got me caught up in some stuff that didn't have a miracle attached to it. So I'm very fortunate for all the things that I've been shown, for the belief that I have in God, and for the trust that I have in him. Unfortunately, at times I don't trust in him, because a lot of times what he tells me to do keeps me at a disadvantage with the earth itself. Hence where we at right now. But it's that same voice that made, you know, that same energy that I was praying to, that ultimately gives me reassurances that miracles that I've even forgotten about can be reminded of be reminded of in circumstances when they're necessary for faith to be applied. So that's the lesson. I was praying a great deal to the Lord about what I see there, and the mental health circumstances I have and all these different things. And I'm telling him, like, as I've told you guys in the last couple of therapy sessions, I'm no longer upset at myself for making decisions that don't help me. I don't fight myself for that. Fighting myself about that has put me in a position to not be able to succeed in that area. It's the very thing that keeps me not moving properly, is the shame that is attached to thinking that I'm not moving properly. And so now that I realize that it's not me not moving properly, but more so me not getting help, and as a result of that, everything falls out of whack, then now it's just about taking the steps toward getting help. But as I look at my situation and assess it, I wonder if I even am going after the right thing. The doubt in my head says, in the world we're in, if you're a person who is unable to work because you're mentally unfit, then that probably means you need medication. You need to be committed. You need to be in circumstances that are supervised. And while I think that is the case for a lot of people, I would challenge those who think that it's the case with myself. I just don't think it's that far. I think I do have some stuff teetering in that area, but ultimately I don't think medication will make me better. If anything, it will just make me sluggish and worse, and it does the same for a lot of people they say who need it. As far as being committed, nobody wants to be in any facility of any kind, being supervised by anybody, especially when you've seen how people have been treated in certain places. I have no interest in being in any of those places. It's one of the reasons why I never got any help. I just assumed that if they did certify me for needing help, they'd probably do one of those type of things toward me. And that also kept me from going to get help. It's just the ignorance about what comes with that help. Don't want to be committed, don't want to be pumped full of drugs, don't want to be a zombie, don't want to be talked to like I have to figure out, my ABCs, that kind of thing. It's like at some point in time, you have to really get help, but you also have to come to terms with what that help actually entails and not be afraid of it. And that is also something that needs to be understood. It's like, yeah, I may want help, but the steps it takes causes anxiety itself. That's why I never did it. No different than doing some of the other things I needed to do. Getting help required a lot. When I was thinking about the links that my friend gave me, my friend Braun sent me from all the way from Texas. There are for mental health services in California, because she's always helping me out. She found me this apartment, yet another miracle. She sent me a bunch of links when I told her I was going through. She's known me my whole life, so she's known some of the struggles closer than most. So immediately she went to, all right, let me show you what you can get. But the problem is that, as I was sitting here in my little space yesterday, kind of depressed in the daytime, I was thinking like, I need help going to these places. I'm not going to initiate that help by myself for whatever reason. It's a part of the same old story, same old song in my head. It's like, if it was so easy to do that, then it would have probably been easy to do all the other stuff I did not do that wouldn't have made it so that I was disadvantaged in the first place. So it's like, okay, well, something's got to give. To myself, I'm saying something has to give, because you can't need help, not get it, be forced into circumstances where you have nothing, and then you're going to double back and want to get the help you didn't get right now. And that's all that is. That's what I see coming. It's like you're going to be forced to do all the things you didn't choose right now. And yet, if I was able to wisen up and move that way, then once again, it wouldn't be a problem in the first place. So that always puts me in a position to feel disadvantaged no matter what it is that I'm facing in my head. It's always something that's going to keep me from getting the help that would help me be a better person in that circumstance. And that's exactly how I see it. Because if you don't get help and you don't choose to get help, then you're allowing yourself to go to roam crazy. And thus, whatever happens after that is your fault for not getting help. So that's what I've come to realize and believe. And the question is, how do I initiate myself to face the stresses that would allow me to walk into those places no different than anything else I don't want to do? So it's just I back myself into a corner, just like, this is meant to do. That's what the mental illness does. It backs me into every corner that I don't want to be in, just so that I can spend as much time in that corner, more or less away from whatever would stress me otherwise, which usually is magnified for whatever reason. So I struggle with this deeply, and I believe there may be help out there for me for the first time in my life. Yeah, there's been help all my life. I'm not an idiot. There's always been psychiatrists, psychologists, and I even tried to go to one a couple of times. Earlier in the 2 years ago, I was trying to get it set up, but I just never followed through for a couple of reasons. I had to do with my schedule, as you probably already know if you follow these close enough. But nevertheless, it's like it didn't fall into place. For whatever reason, my schedule didn't meet it. I ended up just not staying with the process. But I want to get that started. I think it would be best for me legally to have some certification saying that there's something wrong with me, and I don't have that. So that's where it is, man. I am looking forward to winning the battle against not getting help. I look forward to winning the battle against not being this way. I think, or being this way, I guess is the way to word that. But as my mind floated off, it's just like, that battle in and of itself can leave you feeling as if fighting it is an uphill battle. You just find yourself saying, what ifs in regards to not succeeding in the situation. What if I do this and it doesn't work out? Then what's there for me? It's like you almost don't want to go down that path, because if it don't work, you don't see another one. At least that path is always open. It's a weird kind of thing. It's like you always give yourself excuses. That I haven't gone, it's the last one left, means I can always use it. It's like some weird old stuff that is not real, but it keeps you from doing it. It's always something like that in my head convincing me to not move or move accordingly. And it's very convincing, and it's very, very swaying, and the stress itself also presses against it, making it even more convincing. It's just bad, y'all. I've been telling y'all that this is something I've been dealing with my entire life, and as a child, it was really bad. It's right now, it's as bad as it's been since I was a kid. You know what I mean? It's a real mental health struggle, and to believe myself to be mentally challenged, but to not believe that I'm due any support, it's just the current, untanglement of my mindset. I'm working through that right now. So, yeah, man. Very thankful that I had the little 17 minutes here to talk like this. I want to speak on Anel Hims. I want to speak on how much I'm struggling with fixing my situation. Just, telling the Lord simply, that I want to not turn away from his purpose upon my life just because of the current struggles. I've been through many struggles. None of them tore me down. None of them stopped me from being here. And so I told him, I was like, this one feels different in a sense that I'm in a much more disadvantaged position with my finances, a much more disadvantaged position because I don't have a vehicle, much more disadvantaged position because of the lack of credit, much more disadvantaged position because my grandfather's health is not where he can make certain decisions for himself. I would be going through my uncle now to get the type of help that I need, and I don't know where his head is in regards to where their finances are, what they can do for me, what they feel I deserve, what they feel is wrong with me or not wrong with me, because they're not that close to me. So for all they know, this isn't real. And so that's the problem. It's like they know I've had challenges, but for all they know, I'm just trying to play games. And so I'm not. That's one of the reasons why this channel exists, for people all over who click on me to understand that I'm not playing about my mental health. And so, as I've told you guys a couple times recently, I felt like I don't think my mental health was taken seriously as it needed to be. I think people believed there was something wrong, but I don't think people felt it was necessary to get me some help. And that bothers me when I look back on it. It really does. But I think that's useful in the sense that it helps me understand that there are things that your kid, and I said this in the Kanye video I made a couple therapy sessions ago, that your kid is going to look back on certain things that you allow and then maybe hold some resentment for how you didn't sway them better. And that's where I'm working through that. That was a conversation I never had with my mom. We had a lot of conversations, but none about why I wasn't given mental help as a child. Especially when I think about some of the stories she used to tell everybody about how she would take me down she took me once to the police station when I told her I didn't want to go to school. I'd rather go to the police station. And she did it for real, and I followed through because I was that damn serious. And she's had me shake hands with that police officer who was missing a finger. God bless him. Solid brother trying to help me understand what the hell I need to be doing to not find myself in there with him. But what they did not understand at the time was that there wasn't a choice that I was making. It was anxiety that was backing me into that space. And I couldn't articulate it because there was no knowledge of that at the time. Nobody talked about mental health in that era. They were still holding you accountable for your sicknesses. Unless you were spitting fire and throwing crap or whatever, you had to be really crazy to be considered crazy. And so that's what happened to me. I look back in the past and I remember my mom having conversations with my grandparents and my uncle and whomever she was talking to, telling them she didn't know how to get me to do stuff. She didn't know how to get me to go to school. She couldn't get me motivated for nothing. She tried to get me to understand what I need to do. And I talked like I understood it, but didn't move. And she was frustrated and nobody got me any help. And at 38 years old, I look back and say, well, nobody got me any help, man. Y'all knew I was struggling with something deeply, internally, that I couldn't do nothing about. Y'all knew I had been touched as a 2-year-old boy. And y'all didn't think one time that this dude needs serious mental help at all? None of y'all? Like, that's what I'm dealing with right now, man. That's what I'm dealing with right now. And I look at my dad. He was on the other side of town. He didn't know. My grandparents, the people I'm talking about, they were on the side of the country. So who's really at the end of the day, I live with my mom, man. We lived by ourselves. It was me and her, and she did the best she could. She was working 9 hours a day. You know what I mean? And in certain situations, she had to take on a second job. So it's like, what can she do? And then it comes back to the mirror. What did I do? Well, I was sitting down playing video games, sad all the time, scared and hating myself because of it, and very, very insecure about my physical appearance, wasting time doing that. And getting help was what I needed, and I told my mother that too. I was like, Mommy, my head ain't right. I remember we were having a fit. She had spanked me and all kinds of stuff. I ran into the kitchen, sat on the floor, and just came to the conclusion that I wanted to do things that I wasn't choosing to do. It was the first time I had the fathoming notion that, I don't want to be in these moments with my mom, This ain't worth it. It never is. Just like the circumstance I'm in right now where I'm stressing out being evicted. This ain't worth it. I want people to understand. I know this ain't right. The problem is, don't the people who were watching over me as a child know that? They watch me grow all the way up into this person. I'm just now realizing I'm messed up. Y'all didn't know this? When I was having anxiety attacks at like 7 years old, screaming at the principal, telling my mom, I think my mom died. Y'all didn't think, maybe he might need somebody to talk to. It's just like, it's a bunch of stuff in my past that just were super red flags about my mental health. And I had nobody say, yeah, this is a priority here. They didn't throw video games at me. My mom bought $600 worth of video games every Christmas. But I bring home straight Fs because my attendance was terrible. And I'd hear, my friends would be murmuring at high school, especially. Your mom let you do this? Your mom ain't stop you from doing this? We see you once a month. Like, where are you? Where you be at? You selling drugs? Like, people used to ask me stuff like that. Your mom really let you do that, huh? She don't fight you? Nothing, huh? My mama would never let me. And it's like, it's because it got to a point where my mom knew she was dealing with something that she couldn't do nothing about. You couldn't reason with this. You had to get help for that. It just no priority to that. So, yeah, man, as a grown-up, it just helps me understand where I want to tumble forward. I think I have a better understanding of how to deal with this stuff based on the environment I'm in now. We all do. So we just got to take it for what it is. This is what happened to so many households, especially black households. We didn't take mental health seriously as in the 90s and early 80s and 2000s, all that. Black people look at each other and say, you better put a Band-Aid on that and get back out there. If you feeling a certain way, man, soak it up. Suck it up, get out there. So we end up being, it's crazy. a lot of black kids grew up crazy, man, because our parents didn't get us mental health. So there it is. That's exactly what it is, man. I'm struggling like hell, man, and I'm trying my very best to overcome it, and I'm failing. But I'm not mad at myself, which is why I'm able to get up here and do this, say this with confidence, be proud of myself in other areas, be dignified in my speech when I talk about real stuff, because all of that is real. All of that I can see clearly because of this. The same thing that makes me sick makes me profound. So I just roll with it. But at the same time, it's like the walls are closing in on me. I'm running out of time. The situation is getting more stressful. And I feel more weak by the second. And last night just helped me understand that I'm dealing with yet another countdown in my life. And countdowns don't work well for me. That's what it really comes down to. I'm very bad when it comes to countdowns. Unless it's a basketball game, I'm bad at countdowns. I got 2 weeks left. Every day it gets worse and worse. I got a month left. Every day I'm looking out the window to see whatever is going to happen up to that day. It's just how it works, man. The anticipation and the anxiety of things leaves me leaves me in a space where I'm at a disadvantage. It feels from the inside out. And so right now I'm looking at, okay, we got 2 more weeks for them to tell me I got 1 month to live here, basically. It's that kind of thing. Or best case scenarios, I got 2 more weeks before they tell me that I have a court date, as to which they're going to tell me I got 2 months or 3 months to stay here before I have to leave. Either way, my very own self, by my very own self, mobilizing whoever else will help me, I have to figure out a way to get myself out of this place and into a place that's probably significantly more expensive or likely out of state. And to be honest with you, I don't have the mindset or the temperament or even the energy right now to do any of that. And that's when it becomes a situation where it's like, God, if you don't have a miracle, you do know where my head goes when I start thinking about how to escape this nonsense. You know, and that's kind of where my head was when I was thinking right before Anel Hemsley popped up in my head. It was like, bro, I'm not mad at myself. I love myself. I love every bit of myself at this point. I'm happy with all the stuff that I've accomplished, and I'm not confused about some of it actually being able to be sold for something right now. Some of that art can be sold for something right now, but I don't know how to initiate that. No different than initiating them phone calls, no different than going back to work and all this other stuff that I just can't face because of stupid anxiety and nonsense in my head. And it's the same reason why all this stuff is free for everybody. It's because I can't bring myself to accept whatever comes with doing it this way. And I think part of it has to do with the rejection of possibility of people not appreciating what I do. I'd rather initiate my own failure in this. That's how I think I'm approaching it. It's like, if I don't promote, you can't come at me and tell me anything that I don't appreciate about my own stuff. I could do it, be great at it, and the few people who do appreciate it will appreciate it, but I ain't gonna be looking for the masses to troll or nothing like that. I don't think I'm wired for it. And in and of itself, that could be dangerous, but not with me because of the lane I'm in. It's a case study. I'll leave myself vulnerable for that if it'll help people understand what I got, what I'm dealing with more so. I'll leave myself vulnerable for whatever, because at the end of the day, I'm a self-proclaimed crazy person. What you gonna do? What are you gonna do? You gonna toy with my head? Like, what good is that? I mean, at the end of the day, people provoke crazy people all the time, and it doesn't do them no good. It just makes the world a worse place, man. So at the end of the day, you know, everybody got weaknesses, and I'm smart enough to attack other people's weaknesses, but I'm also smart enough to know that that's not a good thing. It shouldn't be done. So with that being said, man, you know, I look forward to being able to get strong enough to receive all the backlash or support that's coming my way. I think that maybe there might be some people who've been watching these therapy sessions who might actually want to help me, and they can't reach me, and I feel very bad about that. But that's also part of the problem. If that was in place, then all of this wouldn't be in place. So therefore, none of this would be a problem. And that's what I tell people about every wrong aspect of my behavior. And, you know, stuff that y'all might see as awry. It's all part of the problem. It's exactly what it is. And when I overcome it, I'll overcome this. So it is what it is, man. I struggle, but I'm unique because of it. You ain't going to find 2 of me anywhere. I can promise you that. And so that's what I weigh all my struggles against, is the fact that I'm one of a kind and that I could do things that I'll appreciate if I could just manage to get past this era. So that's what I was telling God. Get me through this, man. If you got a miracle in your back pocket, obviously I'm holding these damn shares. You could very easily send this thing to the moon and take away all my problems, or at least a good portion of the monetary ones. Clearly, we're dealing with real live corruption. I'm not just sitting here rubbing 2 pennies together. I'm holding something that's worth a lot if it does what it's supposed to do. So it's like, I'm always poised for something like that to happen, but at the same time, I'm also poised for corruption to continue, because it seems like that's what the humans agree to on this earth right now. They just agree. It's a lot of agreements that keep money in places that for a time will not be balanced, to keep the money from being in our hands. There are people going to go a long time having been owed just to keep this from happening. And that's what I see. That's what I see. These banks know these people owe them. They know they've been duplicating these shares infinitely. They know that money is unaccounted for. But if they let this thing squeeze, you know who else loses money? The people who've lost money already. Because they intertwine in the nonsense in other areas. And that's what I know. That's why we got to keep holding these shares. That's why we got to keep speaking on this stuff. That's why we got to keep shunning these people in the SEC who ain't doing their damn job. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because it does put people in a million different situations, and I'm just one study of that. Just one. There are millions of apes. You know how many different households have been affected by this crap? These people taking shares and splitting them down to $5 from $60. They bankrupt millions of people with this crap. People lost their homes. People lost their marriages, trying to fight corruption against these nonsensical demons that walk around in flesh, robbing from the weak and paying themselves infinitely, funding God knows what. Yeah, this is why I'm in this space. This is why I'm struggling so bad. On top of everything else that I got going on mentally, it's because I've been trying to attach myself with this brain of mine to this cause, and saw it damn through too, all the way to the end. I lost my car, lost my job, or threw my job away, lost my car, about to lose my apartment, didn't buy myself nothing, got my health in all different types of directions. I don't know where it's at because I didn't take care of none of those things that would otherwise need to be paid monthly, like healthcare, because I was holding these damn shares. Threw my whole life away for this. So yeah, if the Lord has it in his heart to send that thing to the moon, it would be worth it to me, because that's what I've been doing. This is why I'm in this space. And it certainly would save me from all this nonsense. So I prayed about that too. I'm like, yo, if you got that miracle in your pocket, consider me asking for it. You know what I mean? It's time, bro. I've been sitting here for 2 years. If this is going to happen, it's going to happen. And it ain't like the fundamentals that told us anything different. These people still owe money. So it's like, just because we're in this space and it hasn't happened, it looks bleak because it needs to happen at a time. You know what I'm saying? It ain't bleak. These people still owe. And eventually, the numbers are going to tell them they have to pay. You can only hold on to this nonsense for so long. Eventually, that money's going to come bleeding out like a gunshot wound in some blood. So at this point in time, I'm just waiting for that to happen. Regardless if I'm in this apartment, a home, alive, dead, it don't matter. Them shares are going to be in my pocket. And when they go, they're going to be here. However many it is. That part is I've committed to already. They're going to have to take them things from me. I ain't going to be giving them to them. I'll tell you that right now. So it is what it is, man. I'm an AMC 8 and I believe in what I'm doing. And that's another reason why I look in the mirror and look in this camera and don't feel like a coward. All this other stuff I've been doing, there's a million people who know about what I'm in on, who ain't doing a damn thing about it because they really are cowards. They just don't want to buy shares because, you know, they see what I'm going through. They see what other apes are going through, and they don't want to be a part of the mission, but they need to be, because that money's being taken from them. That money is being robbed by you. It's being robbed from you, man. They in your banks. They in the banks taking that money from you. They're taking your money and they're investing in corrupt stock market practices that infinitely develop money out of nothing, and they put it in their pockets. As I've already said, they ain't giving it back to you. They certainly ain't investing in places that need it. Hell no, they're putting it in their pockets. They're probably building space stations and stupid stuff like that. They can live on in luxury while we all die on a dying earth that they're destroying with the industry nonsense. So that's what it is, man. That's what I think is happening. You know, part of me thinks they found a diamond planet somewhere that makes up the leverage of all this money they're duplicating, and they ain't telling us that. There's something like that going on. They got something very valuable that makes up the difference, and that's why nobody's urgent about making the money. You gotta pay us, not if we have a diamond crusted planet or something with some emeralds or something that we found 700 million miles away. They got all the money. All the money that make up the difference in the stock market is somewhere that you don't know exists. And that's what pisses me off. If something like that's in place, it would explain why nothing's happening. And if you found something like that, or if you had something like that, and you're them, would you tell us? No. But you would launder that money, though. Yes. So here we are. So that's where I'm at, man. That's why I'm frustrated. Because I think if something like that's in place, it ain't going to be no more ass. Because ain't nobody going to come asking for that money, because that money's made up somewhere else. Black market, maybe? Trafficking, maybe? Speaking of which, why the hell are we seeing that? Why are we seeing that? Yeah, trafficking. Y'all know what I'm talking about. The cartel situation. Where those black folks leaving from South Carolina, going to get their tummy tuck or whatever. And we see footage of them getting whatever. That looks like a political display to me. Cartel do stuff like that to Americans anytime they go down there. We hear about them stories every 3 months. But we saw this one. They ain't had no footage on any of them other situations. They got footage on this one, though. Now it's a big deal because Americans were taking. Americans are always taking. That's the point. We have this problem all the time. I hear the story every 3 months. Why this one? There's a reason for that. It's display. It's like, oh, look at the clock. It's time for us to be upset about stuff going on in Mexico. Okay, let's push the button. They know what they're doing, man. They know what they're doing. It's always good to try to get people back from situations like this. But to display and make it a big deal like it never happens, or like this is the one that we need to focus on for some random reason without telling us why this is the one we need to focus on, just tells me that you're ready to focus on something and this is the one you probably made happen to make that happen. George Floyd, anyone? I'm not supposed to say that, though. That's why I don't tell myself I'm a coward. I ain't no coward, bro. I just have mental illnesses. But this mental illness allows me to be wily in my mouth, and I'm going to say what I want. And I'm going to mean it. And I'm going to pray about it. Just the same. And I'm telling you, that situation there, that happens all the time. Why was cameras pointed at that one? I know why, because it's politic time. It's time for people to be thinking about presidents. Man, that's why. All of a sudden, we got a bunch of POVs and all the different type of stuff that America needs to come in and save us. Americans are in trouble. Let's go save them. Who do we think? The president. You think I ain't ready for that? 2 of them were found dead. 2 of them were found alive. We're going to find the other 2. I promise. We're going to get them. You got them already, I'm sure. Tired of it. This godlessness. Appealing to the wrong stuff. We start falling in love with that image. We start thanking Biden for that. We vote for Biden. He's back in for 4 years. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it's a bad thing. But that shouldn't be why he's back in 4 years. And that's how we operate. We always fall into these little traps. Little photo ops and these scenarios that they get to come in and be the superhero. You ain't no damn superhero. You're an orchestrator. And I ain't stupid. Anyway, that's pretty much what I got to say, man. Prayers out to everybody. We all need help. We're all fighting demons. And at the end of the day, those people need help. Those 2 who are alive, they need to be found. And so do all the other millions of Americans and Mexicans and anybody else that they didn't snatch up. They need to be found, fam. So if y'all afraid of them people to that degree, then why y'all striking them now? If y'all been this afraid of them all this time, then why the campaign that riles Americans up against them now? We known about the cartel for 30 years. You gonna be mad at them now, huh? Interesting. BDF 44. I'll take you off watch.